ahead, Patty.
Well, now for some people in the news. Vice President George Bush was tired of not catching any fish during a weekend holiday in Maine, so he decided to have a little sport at the expense of a tag-along Secret Service crew. Bush showed his sporting side by suddenly gunning his 28-foot speedboat and speeding off. Well, the agents gave chase in their own speedboat, but got off course and got all tangled up in a cluster of lobster pots. The Vice President was said to have gotten a good laugh out of his own stunt. Now let's check in with Marie Torre, who's guest hosting Pittsburgh 2Day this week. Marie, what's up today?
Patty, we have a question for viewers today, and that is, what would you do if your own son or daughter joined a cult? This afternoon on Pittsburgh 2Day, we'll meet a woman who fell victim to one of these mysterious organizations. Appearing with her will be an attorney specializing in cult litigation. Also, we will hear about Pittsburgh's 5 biggest fears, none of which is Bill Burns.
All right, Marie, thanks.
I'll tell you that, Marie, don't ask me what I'd do if my daughter or son joined a cult, because I couldn't say it on television.
Really? Well, then I'll talk to you after the show.
Okay.
Just ahead, we'll check in with Wall Street for a look at the noontime stock market.
John Parisi will take a look at Tuesday's weather outlook, and Joe Carcione will have his tip for the day.
You're looking for a sweet, mild plum? I'll tell you about 2 later.
What are your kids doing this summer? What new challenges are they facing to help them prepare for the future? This summer, why not let your kids go to YMCA Summer Camp? The challenges, fun, and learning experiences will last them a lifetime.
About as nice as it ever gets this time of year. Details at 6 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Marie Torre, filling in for Patrice King-Brown, and we have a great lineup today. We're going to be dealing with Pittsburgh's biggest phobias. Then we're going to be talking about coping with teenage problems. And a former cult member tells her story. Welcome to Pittsburgh Today.
It's Pittsburgh Today.
The first guest in our lineup today is Robert Deitz, who is a psychologist, and what he deals in basically has to do with fears and phobias. He says that there are 5 big fears in Pittsburgh which we want to hear about. I should tell you, too, that he is director of the Pittsburgh chapter of TERAP, which is Territorial Apprehensiveness.
Right.
Okay. Before we go into that, though, what are the 5 big fears that people have here in Pittsburgh?
I suppose if you were going to narrow it down to 5, because there are hundreds and hundreds of fears and phobias, that the 5 biggest ones are 1, a fear of panic attacks. That
panic attacks.
People are afraid that if they get too far from their safe place, they're going to have a panic attack. That things will just get out of control, that they'll feel out of control.
Okay, and second?
Second, they're afraid of bridges.
Bridges.
Bridges is...
In this town of bridges.
Exactly. This is a very popular fear here. Quite a few come in for treatment.
Is that why
for
so
their
many
fear.
bridges were built?
No, I think that's why there's so many bridges are built, determines how many phobics there are around bridges. The third we come across, and especially this time of year, is fear of thunderstorms, lightning and thunderstorms primarily.
Lightning and thunderstorms, what do you say? It's a big time for that.
Yeah.
And
also,
fifth?
Fourth is coming up with heights, which would also include flying, fear of flying.
Yeah.
And the last one that we would come up with would be spiders and snakes.
Spiders
Creepy,
and snakes.
crawly things, and any kind of animal.
Well, you know, I think that all of us have such fears in varying degrees. I mean, there are times that snakes frighten me very much. Anything that crawls can frighten me. Sometimes being on a rooftop can be frightening too. So, do I have an illness then?
Well, everyone has fears, and everyone has, to a certain degree, a phobia. But phobias become very pathological when they become exaggerated. when you, there's a certain amount of rationality behind fears. You don't go up to a strange snake. You don't go up to pick up spiders that you don't know what they are. You don't climb to the edge of tall buildings. And so there's a protectiveness about it. It protects us from hurting ourselves. But there comes to a point where it becomes irrational. And we're aware of the irrationality, that we're just too frightened by the situation or by the object.
Yeah.
And then that is when it becomes a phobia, when it becomes too devastating for us.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking with psychologist Bob Deitz about Pittsburgh phobias. There are 5 major ones here, and we're going to hear about them at length when we return in just a few moments.
John Signa is learning firsthand about the KDKA Radio Picnic Patrol.
Ready, John? Oh, I'm always ready for a picnic.
They're on the move.
Oh, brother!
Relax, John.
With over $100,000 worth of prizes and surprises, which they're looking to bring to your picnic.
A picnic! A picnic?
So watch out for the KDKA Radio Picnic Patrol coming your way this summer.
Sargent's invites you to put yourself in your cat's place. What if you had the fleas, the itching, the scratching? You'd want relief on the double. You'd want your cat to give you Sargent's new double-layer flea and tick collar. Sargent's double layers kill fleas and ticks like both a powder and a spray. And Sargent's keeps killing for 5 full months. Give your cat relief on the double. Sargent's new double-layer flea and tick collar. She'd do it for you.
Come on, baby, let's Scott tissue roll. So many sheets, it'll thrill your soul. Come on, baby, let that paper roll. Roll on and on.
When a roll of the other leading brand quits, Scott Tissue keeps rolling to 1,000 sheets, so it lasts longer.
Roll on.
Scott Tissue 4-pack and 1 roll. They go a long way to give you more for your money.
Roll on and on.
Psychologist Bob Deitz has been telling us that there are 5 major phobias here in Pittsburgh, and one of them has to do with bridges, which is really quite interesting when you consider how many bridges we have in this city. And what do these poor people do who have this phobia?
A lot of people just suffer their way through it. A number of people live in the South Hills, live in the North Hills, and just push themselves across the bridge daily. Some unfortunately use drugs and alcohol.
They're in a funk when they go across.
Yes, they just tighten up, they tense themselves up, and feel so relieved when they finally get across.
Does it make them ill?
It doesn't make them ill, but it just prolongs the agony. What they've done is just taught themselves that the next time they cross that bridge, it might happen next time, whatever it is they're afraid of. For some people, what they're afraid of is that the bridge will collapse. Okay, that there's some structural damage, and that people just aren't aware of it, and someday the bridge might happen to collapse underneath them. More often than not, people are afraid of getting trapped on the bridge. And it will become that things will just get out of control for them on the bridge, you know, and again go into a panic.
That's a tough way to live. Now, what about the poor families too, who have to deal with that?
Yes, with all of these phobias, I think that what you come across is how it generates into the family. Particularly the first one that I'd spoken about was the fear of panic attacks. Many of you know it more as agoraphobia or agoraphobia. Okay. The idea is I become so afraid of my internal sensations that I'm afraid that they'll get out of control and that something devastating will happen to me, something catastrophic. They're afraid that if they get too far from the house, that they'll go crazy. They're afraid they'll have a heart attack or a stroke or just pass out in the middle of a shopping mall. And so what they do is begin to restrict themselves more and more in their activities.
Don't leave the house if they can help it.
They don't leave the house if they can help it. If they do go, it's oftentimes under very specific restrictions, that they go only with a specific person or someone that's safe for them, only to certain areas, and only to places that they know that they can get out of very quickly.
Bob, is anything known about what causes something like this, this kind of phobia?
It's only been in the last 10 years that people have really been studying it closely. There's constant research going on as to what precipitants there are for this anxiety, for this phobia, and there's a lot of back and forth. There is a lot that says that it can be inherited, that there's a certain predisposition that an individual might have to become phobic. Frequently, almost always, we'll find someone else in the family, a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, who has suffered with this phobia as well. Oftentimes they believe it has a lot to do with learning. If your parents were phobic and were afraid of doing things, then you learn to be afraid.
I mean, is there a cure for it? I mean, can you get over it?
There is a number of different ways that people work to learn how to handle these anxieties. They learn new strategies for getting out and for experiencing the symptoms and not becoming so upset by them, so set off by them, not escalating into a panic attack. Either through a tear-up type of program where you get out and learn how to face situations, new situations, in a gradual, manageable way. Okay? And learn techniques of just more or less changing your own structure of handling these difficulties. There's also the question of at times medication is also helpful in helping people just approach these situations.
You can take medicine for that?
It can be helpful.
How did you happen to come to this subject? Did you have a phobia, or did you have someone in the family who had phobias?
Not really, no. I think it's just an area that has, because of the interest that is evolved around it, and my own interest evolved in it as well, that there's a great satisfaction, I think, in working with people with phobias, because there is a very good success rate in helping people change and helping people learn that there is help.
You can get over it then.
And you can get over it, yes. So you hear stories of people.
What's the worst case you ever heard of?
The worst case would be people who have been in the house for, let's say, 30 years, 20 years.
30 years in the house?
20 years, or have greatly restricted.
I can think of this. I mean, no fresh air, nothing. How unhealthy this is.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Or if they go out, it's under very, very restricted.
How do you start? I mean, do you just open the door and have them take a step outside to help them get over this phobia? How do you do it?
That's where the real cure comes from, yes. Teaching them ways of, first of all, being aware of what they're dealing with. So many people out there have no idea that there are other people dealing with these types of panic attacks.
Is there a way that parents can spot the possibility of their child becoming phobic in one way or another?
Oftentimes, the parents need to look inside of themselves, because frequently they are the ones who are phobic and they are the ones who are apprehensive, and help to translate this onto the child. And so that what we often recommend is that parents themselves take care of their own anxieties and take care of their own fears. And it's a good lesson for the children. They then learn to be more confident, learn they find ways of facing difficult situations.
Is there a lack of confidence then that may cause this?
I think the cause is more of just learning ineffective ways of handling difficult situations.
How do you mean?
We are all in anxiety-producing situations. Okay, when we need to talk before a group, when we need to, when we're stopped by a policeman.
Well, weren't you nervous about coming on here today?
Exactly. You know,
what'd you do?
Public speaking is probably the major fear that we all deal with.
Yeah.
It's just not too often gone after for treatment. But that people learn ways of handling difficult situations. Some are productive ways of getting out there and building up their confidence and doing it over and over again. Another way, a less effective way, but it's in the long run, is by avoiding. You just don't show up for where you need to go. You don't do those things that you need to have to do. And yes, you've taken care of the problem in the short run, but in the long run, you've just exaggerated the problem. That the next time you need to do the same type of situation, the same type of operation, the anxiety is going to be there again and be even higher.
How many people are we speaking of?
I would estimate in the greater Pittsburgh area, okay, that there are probably about 12,000 people dealing with agoraphobia alone.
That many.
Okay, and that's the first one I was talking about with the panic
not getting
attack.
out of the house, or
who
not
getting, or afraid of their panic attacks.
That's terrible. You have a hotline for these people who do have a problem.
Yes.
And I guess these people can contact you, Bob Deitz.
At the Torre organization.
Okay, or call our number, which is 392-2217, and we'll be glad to tell you who to call or what number to call. That's tough, but it's good to know that there is a problem out there that perhaps you know, can be helped by people just calling or finding out what can be done about it. I thank you, Bob Deitz.
Thank you.
And you're director of the Pittsburgh chapter of TERAP.
Right.
Territorial Apprehensiveness. Thanks again. When we return, we're going to be talking with Carol Weston about Girltalk, and there's an awful lot that she's going to tell you that will be interesting to you as parents and to your children. Tomorrow, John Cipher.
This is it. The diaper you've all been waiting for.
I loved it. They're wonderful. They're fantastic.
It keeps babies drier from top to bottom.
Stay dry all night. I'd call it the perfect diaper. I want to know what's the name of them.
It's the totally new diaper with the new blue waist shield.
I think the blue band that's around there is it's a miracle band.
That blue waist shield stops leaks up top like no regular diaper can.
Big difference. It keeps the baby dry everywhere. Her t-shirt's not wet, her clothes aren't wet. There's just absolutely no comparison. They make my baby 100% drier and happier.
This is exactly what moms have been looking for.
The diaper with the form-fitting shape that keeps babies drier than regular diapers.
Who makes them? I'd like to know who makes them. Pampers! Oh my goodness, you're kidding. Oh, totally new Pampers. They have totally improved Pampers. Totally. I think this is the ultimate.
Now you know, totally new Pampers. It keeps babies drier from top to bottom.
Try extra sugar-free gum with NutraSweet.
Extra flavor, extra fun in a sugar-free gum.
Extra sugar-free gum with NutraSweet gives you extra refreshing flavor that lasts an extra, extra, extra long time.
Extra flavor for that extra long haul. Extra flavor for that extra long call. Wrigley's Extra, the extra fresh flavor lasts an extra, extra, extra long time.
Get extra sugar-free gum.
There's something new in this package. A perfectly baked Chef Pierre pie that you just warm in your oven or microwave. Imagine the glorious taste of a pie this fruity, this juicy, this tempting. A pie that's ready in minutes and perfect every time. Try all the new baked perfect pies from Chef Pierre. The pies that are already baked and ready to warm in your oven or microwave. They're waiting for you in your grocer's freezer now.
We promised Girl Talk, and we're going to have just that with Carol Weston, who has written this book called Girl Talk. And it is really a very good book. I wish it was something that I had available to me when I was about 16 or 17, because she talks candidly and frankly about some of the problems that we have that we're sometimes not open to talking about, certainly not with our parents. And you know, after reading this, it occurred to me that it is such an important thing for a teenager in this country, because unlike teenagers in other countries, I think we have more options. I think in other countries and other cultures, teenagers pretty much are given dictates, and they do obey what their parents say. But here we do have the options. We have a little bit more freedom, and that's what makes it so difficult for us.
That's right. There's more options and there's more pressure.
Right,
and
right.
The parents don't say come in. They may say come in at 10, but you're allowed to go out until 10. So you've got to use your own discretion about what you're going to be up to.
Well, the thing I appreciated about it was, you know, some of these books make it sound as if the parents are all wrong. You don't say that. And you urge these teenagers that if they, for example, want to extend their curfew, to sit down and talk with their parents and say, the curfew's at 10:30, can I come in at 11:15 instead? And if they're resistant to the idea, well, let's negotiate. How about 11 o'clock? And if they say okay, don't arrive 5 minutes after 11, which is so trying.
I try to be the go-between a little bit between the parents and the teenagers. I'm kind of on the teenager's side, but I want them to understand that the parents are giving them that curfew because they're looking out for them and for their best interest.
Being protective.
Right.
What do you feel is the most difficult thing about being a teenager today?
Well, that's a hard one because I think it's difficult at different ages. I think if you're 11, 12, 13, it's difficult to accept your body, to just, you know, I know I was in a mad rush to grow up at that age, and you're worried about your breasts and you're worried about your figure, and diet is a 4-letter word from about age 12 on. But later on, and you're worried about popularity in boys. And when you're an older teen, I think you're worried about getting into a good college, getting a summer job, or looking toward a good career, and that big one, sex. And, you know, should you say yes or should you say no? I think you should say no as long as you possibly can, but if you're going to say no, say yes, you've got to know about birth control and about STDs, VD, and all that sort of thing.
You talk also about awkwardness on dates, and I think all of us have stories about teenage dating. In some cases, it was pretty horrible, as I recall. I mean, when you didn't want someone to even hold hands with you, it maybe gave you a strange feeling. You just did not like this person. That certainly was an awkwardness, and trying to deal with that. What are some of the other awkward situations that teenagers come across on dates?
Well, I think sometimes they make situations awkward that don't have to be awkward. For instance, if a girl has to go to the bathroom, she can just say, "Excuse me, I'm going to go to the ladies' room." However, there are a lot of 14-year-olds that sort of go like this for the whole night and then bolt out of the car when they go home, and then the guy wonders why there was no goodnight kiss or no, warm thank you. I think girls should just realize that guys are worried too, that everybody out there is a little bit scared, and that if you're just open and friendly and easy, the date will be fun. That's what dates are supposed to be.
How can you encourage your parents to talk honestly to you about, some of the intimate things about life?
Well, I think parents and daughters do get very flustered, and sometimes it's going to be nearly impossible. But while you're doing the dishes, if you can just sort of say, "Mom, what was it like for you when you were a teenager and when some of the guys were getting a little forward?" Maybe you can get the mother to confide and to remember that she had her temptations too and her ways to say no, and maybe that's one way to bridge the gap. Or to mention that some of your friends are getting are beginning to think about being sexually active. I think you don't want to go too direct because that can backfire.
Why do parents have such a tough time, though, talking to their children, certainly about the subject of sex? That's very tough for some parents.
No, it's a hard one. I mean, the daughters are...
Why is it so tough?
Why? Because I think, well, not only are the statistics scary, 1,200,000 teenage girls get pregnant every year, 30,000 of them are under age 15, and herpes is rampant, and you hear about all that, and you really just want your girl to stay a girl for a long time and not to become a young woman. But of course, if your girl doesn't grow up naturally and doesn't start going out with guys or whatever, then she's going to be a girl at age 23, and the parents don't want that. So you've got to let them grow up and hope that they don't grow up too fast.
I mean, the parents are being unrealistic.
Well, it's natural, but yeah, I guess I think it's natural for them to want the girls to slow down, but the pendulum is not swinging back in America, so I think they've got to understand that they might as well learn it not the hard way and just go ahead and talk to their kids about birth control. And if they find that too hard, then give them a copy of Girltalk or give them some 17 magazines or whatever, so that the girls are going to find out, not from the street where they'll get misinformation.
In the book, you do mention some of your own experiences as a teenager. Did you have an unusually tough time as a teenager?
No, I don't think I did. I had a probably fairly typical time. I wasn't one of the popular kids, but I had my friends. I had a boyfriend who was 1 year older and real sweet. And yeah, I do mention I have a lot of diary excerpts in this book. There was one thing that I had completely forgotten about, and then I was reading over my diaries when I was doing my research, and I had been kind of approached by a janitor. Unfortunately, not much happened from it, but I was working on my homework after hours in school, and this not very nice man was trying to make advances, and he was kind of pawing at me a little bit. And I had pretty much repressed that, and I certainly at age 13 didn't know that I could have gotten him fired, or that I could have yelled at him, or that I didn't have to sit there. But I think a lot of teenagers and boys and girls think that adults are always right, and adults aren't always right.
No.
Often.
You didn't make any mention to your parents about this.
That's what my mother said when she read the book. Carol, honey.
You could tell us.
Yeah. I guess I don't know why I didn't, and maybe it really wasn't as traumatic as it really should have been or something. I mean, he did not pursue too hard, but Yeah.
You also say, too, don't envy the beautiful girls, because they have their own problems. Beauty has its own problems.
It does.
Talk about that a bit, because I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, I think one of the problems of these women who are the popular girls and the beautiful girls is that the rest of us sort of think, it's just not fair, or you immediately are going to assume that maybe they're not as nice or they're not as smart, and also that a lot of the boys are intimidated too. The boys feel that surely Danielle has 67 dates for Saturday night already. They're not going to call. And a lot of times these beautiful girls aren't all that deluged with.
They don't have all the dates, and when they do, I think, well, I guess boys are reluctant to ask them out, thinking that, well, she's probably all booked up, and I don't want to be turned down. Yeah,
I think some of the fair. I think some of the fair to cuties out there try harder and develop their mind and think ahead towards career, and that's real helpful too. That's important.
Yeah. Well, Carol Weston deals with many of the intimate subjects relating to teenagers, and we're going to discuss more of them. We do have some teenagers in our audience, and perhaps they have some questions for Carol Weston. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Every one of the operators here is getting ready to take your order for the best-sounding offer Time magazine has ever made. Part of it is right here in my hand. But first, watch this, and I'll be back to show you the rest.
You like to keep up with what's going on in the world, don't you?
You bet.
Well, if you call this toll-free number, you get Time magazine for more than 40% off the cover price.
Sounds good to me. I'll take it.
I'm not through. You actually get that discount for over half a year, 27 issues. So you know what's going on in the world. In the nation, with politics, interesting people, the latest movies, your health and technology, with all the color and insight that only Time can deliver.
That's for me. I'll take it.
Wait. You get Time's eagerly awaited Man of the Year special and Images 85 with the year's most memorable pictures.
Great. I'll call.
Not so fast. Wait till you see this.
What?
The official Statue of Liberty pin. It's yours, free.
Terrific. I'll call.
Hold on. You haven't seen your other free gift.
You gotta be kidding.
No, we're not. It's Time's Micro FM headset radio. Also free with your paid subscription. Remarkably compact, but with great reception and big, high-fidelity sound.
I'll take it.
Wait a minute. It comes complete with hideaway headphones and carrying case. All free. And all you have to do is call 1-800-621-9600.
Now?
Now. That's Time for more than 40% off, including the 2 special issues and a free Statue of Liberty pin and a free micro headset radio with headphones and case. All for 4 easy payments of just $7.49.
Hello? I'll take it.
Hi, I'm Jenny here at Time magazine. Didn't I tell you it was a great offer? Time at over 40% off the cover price, and the 2 special issues, plus the Statue of Liberty pin and the incredible micro headset radio. They're both yours, free. But call now. I can't hold on to this offer much longer.
We're talking with Carol Weston in her book, Girltalk, which deals with all the problems that face teenagers today. And I mean, she goes into just about everything, even drugs, alcoholism, anorexia, which seems to be a young person's disease. And why does that happen? Why anorexia? Why do these teenagers feel that they must be reed thin?
Well, that's a hard one. I do wonder whether it's media partly is to blame. Because people on TV is fairly new in the big picture of things, and I think that maybe anorexia is more, and bulimia are more a problem of the 80s, because so many models are so skinny and they look just great on the screen, but the teenagers don't realize that that's not the natural way that the body looks. So anorexia is when you're starving yourself. Bulimia is when you're usually stuffing yourself and then purging, vomiting. And unfortunately, there are a million sufferers, and young women are the prime victims. And it's not something you can usually kick all by yourself, so sometimes a little bit of therapy or counseling is necessary.
That is a very tough thing to get over, and from time to time we do hear some really very sad cases. The other thing we mentioned too is the drugs, and I think we're also horrified by the reports that we become aware of from time to time about drug taking in the schools, and 13-year-olds, 14, 15, and in some cases parents don't even know about it. At least that's what we hear until you know, there's something terrible that has happened to the child.
Right. And again, I think the best thing would be if teenagers just didn't use drugs, but because this is a sisterly book, I say that if you're going to use drugs, please don't drink and use drugs and drive. Don't mix drugs. I think a lot of teenagers don't realize that, I mean, Quaalude is a terrible thing, but a Quaalude and a drink can be death.
Sure.
You know? And actually, drugs are a little less on the up and up, and drinking is the big thing now, too.
Okay, we have some calls among our viewers. Let's hear from Shaler. Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Marie Torre.
Hi. How would you think you should be to date?
To date?
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on how mature you are. I hate to just say 13 or so, or 16, but I guess it also depends on who the boy you want to date with. If you're 16 and he's 23, I don't blame your parents for being a little worried. But if you're both about the same age and you're just talking about a Friday night movie and then you're going to get home at a reasonable hour, that's okay.
Why did you ask the question?
Well, because I have a boyfriend right now, but I'm
How old are you?
I'm 15.
Uh-huh.
Why don't you see if your parents will let you go out during the day? You know, to go to the zoo on a Saturday during the day, something like that they might think is okay. Or maybe you can do a double date with some of your other friends.
Well, yeah, and also, how do you bring up the subject of sex with your parents?
Well, you can ask your mother what she... maybe that's one where you can say that some of your friends have been thinking about sex, and you know that you're not ready for it yet. You can hedge things like that and just see how she's going to field that question.
Is there something in particular you wanted to ask about it?
Not really. I just wanted to know how you would bring the subject around to your parents.
Your parents have never talked to you about sex?
Well, they're pretty open with me. It's just that, well, it's kind of hard to talk about it.
Why don't you tell your parents that you've been reading some statistics, like 3/5 of teenage pregnancies are repeat pregnancies, and 3 out of 5 sexually active teenagers don't use regular birth control, and that you are really appalled by these statistics, so that she knows that you're a reasonable girl, and she knows also that this is a teen reality.
Yeah, well, I don't believe in it, you know, but all my friends seem to, you know.
Well,
if you can wait, wait.
And also talk to your parents if you can. So it's important to keep those lines of communication open. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Hello, Irwin. Hello, this is Marie Torre.
I'd like to know what you're supposed to do whenever your boyfriend's parents hate you.
Hate you?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet they
That's
don't
tough.
hate you. I think that talk to your boyfriend about it, and it may be that they feel that he's not ready to date, and so no matter who you were, you could be, you know, a wonderful, I'm sure you are a wonderful girl, and they just aren't ready to see that he's turning into a young man.
What makes you think they hate you?
Because my friend and me were talking to him, and he goes, I got a gun now, and I asked him why, and he said, because my parents despise you, and they said if they ever catch me near you, that I'll be grounded.
Has it occurred to you that it might be just the fact they don't like him dating, and whoever the female was, that they would feel that way? It's maybe they're not singling you out, in other words. It would be whoever the female is.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, talk to your boyfriend about what you could talk to his parents about. Maybe his father loves mystery novels, and his mother loves, you know, cooking souffles, and you have some common interest that you can talk to them about, so you can begin to get some rapport and a friendship with the parents. And good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
We have another call from Imperial. Hello, this is Marie Torre.
How old do you think that you should be before you actually have sex?
Okay, that's another one where I can't say, you know, 17. I can't really give you a year because I think that's a very personal question. And I think you should wait just as long as you possibly should wait. I also think the first time is very important. There's only one first time. And you want it to be with somebody who cares about you just as much as you care about him. And you also want to be responsible enough to be using birth control and to know about disease and to really know what you're doing. So take your time, and there's no age. I think if you're less than 15, you're way too young.
How old are you? Hello?
Okay.
How old are you?
What?
How old are you?
15.
Uh-huh.
Keep waiting just a little longer anyway.
But as you say, the pressures are so great on teenagers today. If you just turn on television, you watch the soap operas.
Oh, I know. That makes me mad, really. All those TV shows, the adults jumping in and out of bed.
If you haven't looked at soap operas for a few years and suddenly tune in now, I think you'd be sort of really shocked. It is just incredible.
I think when
how much of it
You know, sex when you're not ready for it is just sound and fury signifying nothing, and it can get you into big trouble, and it's just not a good idea.
We've been talking about what the teenagers could and should do. What about the parents? What can they do to encourage better relations with their teenagers?
Well, I think they can just talk to the teenagers about the questions that they have each day, and keep the lines of communication open. If the teenager comes home a little bit tipsy, don't immediately yell at them, but just you know, try to start talking about it the next day. Be understanding. I think Girl Talk can help parents also see all the issues that are important.
No, and you said somewhere too about don't be a harping parent, because a harping parent produces a harping child who grows into a harping adult. You know, and that's really so true. And that's
and if you harp, your child will just take 3 steps back.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of good information in the book, Girl Talk, and I'm sure that there is stuff here to benefit the teenager as well as the parent. Thank you very much,
Thank
Carol.
you, Marie.
I'll be back in just a few moments. We're going to be dealing with cults, a method of mind control. Back in a few moments.
I'm not being lazy. I am demonstrating the custom-built Contour Chair Lounge to you. Look at Contour's special body-conforming shape. See how your head, back, legs, and feet are always supported? Contour was designed with the help of an orthopedic surgeon to cradle you in comfort, just like astronauts' chairs do. Most ordinary chairs force your weight onto your hips, pinch off circulation, and cause muscle strain and discomfort. But Contour is different. It's custom built to your exact body specifications. That's why it's so amazingly comfortable. And Contour adjusts. You can raise your legs above your heart or sit fully upright at the touch of a button. Get this free catalog that describes the Contour Chair Lounge. Call the toll-free number to get your free catalog by mail. No obligation.
Call 1-800-228-5010 toll-free. Call 1-800-228-5010 toll-free. Call 1-800-228-5010. That's 1-800-228-5010.
A good lineup on Pittsburgh Today for the rest of the week. Tomorrow is TV News Going Too Far. Also, John Cipher of Hill Street Blues. Thursday, tennis pro Vitas Gerulaitis. And we'll have some soap scoops with Linda Hirsch. On Friday, Beauty Magic with Arnold Zegarelli and Gay Schools.
Like a favorite chair that feels so right, a cuddly bear to hold at night. Cottony soft Cottonelle is one of the comforts of home.
Cottonelle bathroom tissue. Of course it isn't cotton, but it is cottony soft.
Like a faded knit that doesn't fit, or slippers that are worn a bit. Cottony soft Cottonelle is one of the comforts of home.
Introducing Fresh Delights, a new light and lively product. Low-fat cottage cheese in 1 cup, real fruit flavoring in the other. Kept apart to keep them fresh. Together, 130 calories. Fresh Delights, available in 4 delicious fruit flavors.
What kind of beans go into vanilla ice cream? This one has locust beans. Miss Breyer's has just milk, cream, sugar, and real vanilla beans.
Breyer's all-natural ice cream. Nothing but pure enjoyment.
Into summer on a real-to-life riverboat. Eat, drink, dance, and be merry aboard Pittsburgh's famous Gateway Clipper Fleet, celebrating 25 fun years and 1,000,000 miles of smiles.
Willie Nelson, Tuesday on Evening Magazine.
You know, from time to time, we hear about cults, and they seem like strange, mysterious doings that are going on in these cults. We have a young lady with us today who was a member of a cult for 3 years. She was a member of the Holy Order of Mans, and for 1.5 years of that time, it was rather an intensive membership there. She's with us today, along with her father, Harry Stanton. We're interested in the father being with us today because I think parents go through their own hell when something like this happens to a son or to a daughter. And first of all, Deborah Stanton, what happened while you were in this cult? What was going on? What were you doing?
Well, Maria, as you said earlier, it happened in two phases. I first began attending their church services, their classes during the week. This was while I was
How did you get into it originally? What happened? Did someone see you on the street and say, hey, this is a good thing for you to join?
Well, this group, first of all, doesn't proselytize. What happened was I saw them in a street-side suburban festival. They had a little table there. They had their pamphlets.
Yeah.
And I simply went up and I took a pamphlet and we talked a little bit. They didn't try to pull me into their church service by any means. I was simply interested. So I followed my curiosity.
You went to a meeting then?
I went to a meeting. I very much enjoyed the people there. You know, there's a broad diversity of people, and I'll tell you, in the cults, you will find some of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet.
Really?
Yeah, but at the same time, there's another dynamic happening there, which is a strong set of social influences that can, in time, get you to believe certain things that you might not normally accept.
For example?
Well, as I was in, prior to joining the group, I had taught on the college level for about 5 years. Okay. When I would normally doubt certain beliefs of the group, somebody might say to me, Deborah, you're just in the mind.
You're just what?
In the mind.
In the mind?
Yes, it's a very simple way of saying you're really doubting something that doesn't need to be doubted here because it's God's truth, it's God's word. So they had very simple ways of placing some very large and broad concepts into some very simple words, vague words, you know. So those are some of the things that can happen.
And do you begin disbelieving yourself then if you hear this often enough?
Eventually, that is the process, I think, that takes place when you begin to accept this ideology, and some of it can be very good. But as you begin to accept it, and as you are around others who vehemently accept it, you, in time, come to doubt things that you would normally believe.
Were you mistreated while you were there?
No, I wouldn't say intentionally. There was certainly no malice. But the problem that I noticed happening as I'm out, I can see this, is that they were using psychological tools to accomplish things that they called spiritual growth, but it was really psychological damage.
What is the purpose of all this? What is it they're trying to do with people like you?
I think some of the groups really have a sincere desire to gather people together around a belief that they think is really right.
Is it that, or are they trying to wield some power over a large group of people?
I think there are other groups that are doing that. Okay, but I think nonetheless, even in the groups that have a purer intentions, if you will, that sense of power exists anyway. And power is intoxicating, regardless.
Harry Stanton, what were you doing all this time while she was a member of this cult and experiencing these things going on in her mind?
Well, the worst part of it is that when she first became involved, we really didn't realize what was going on. A good example is she came home one day and brought the fellow that was in charge of the group. He immediately began to tell us that this was not a religion, this was a non-sectarian, non-denominational group of people. But all the time he's telling us this, he's wearing a cross around his neck, he has the collar of a priest, and that was the beginning. As it went along, and the farther she got into it, and finally one day she decided that she was going to be going to Boston and to go to a retreat house there. We began to wonder, my wife and I, and she had just about quit her job teaching. She was down to that point where she had just about quit. And of course she began to become very worried about this type of thing. And of course my wife, who was totally responsible for our getting her out, saw things that I didn't see.
What'd she see?
Well, she saw changes in her personality, and
what were you doing?
She saw, one of the things she saw was a frightening docility, as she calls it. And you know, I can understand why, because part of the process is essentially taking your will and kind of putting it aside so that you can adopt God's will.
Well, they say it's God's will.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, they define what God's will is. So, you know, I was working to, again, you have to realize that I think anybody who pursues this kind of thing, who has any sense of success in them, is going to pursue it in the best way that they can, right? And so I was doing that, you know, I wanted to achieve that. But
okay. You said, too, that she wasn't teaching very much. She
progressively reached a point where she quit.
She quit. So how was she living?
Well,
oh, well, I was able to support myself, but at the time that I had planned it so that at the time that I quit, I would be going right into the order and taking vows.
And they would support you?
Well, we all worked and contributed and pooled our resources to pay the bills.
Okay, when you say you worked, you don't mean the teaching job, you mean you worked as something else?
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, the jobs that I ended up doing were house cleaning.
House cleaning?
House cleaning.
That's kind of demeaning for someone who has been teaching. I mean, to go from teaching to that certainly isn't upgrading yourself, is it?
Yeah.
Anyone ever question that?
Well, no, not really. But I'd have to say that I did try to find some a job teaching in the area that I was in, and it was difficult, you know.
Mr. Stanton, once you and your wife decided there was something really bad here, I mean, how did you proceed to change the whole situation?
Well, Marie, one of the most frightening things about the becoming involved like this was that we just didn't know anybody that knew anything about what we were involved in. And one day my wife had gone to the dentist, and she read an article that was written by a member of the Cult Awareness Network of Pittsburgh. And when she read what was written in the article, it described to a T what was happening in our family. And that was the first time, and that was probably 2 years into this whole thing. And when we called, we had a meeting with this gentleman that had written the article, and then we started going to their meetings, and they are the ones that really began to give us the necessary information, and this is how we
So how did
proceeded.
you begin then with Deborah?
Well, she was about to go to San Francisco.
Had she already been to Boston?
She'd been to
you
Boston.
went to Boston, now you're going to San Francisco.
Now they were ready to send her to San Francisco, and at this point we had gotten information that was just about the end of the road when they got out there. So my wife, again, my wife was the one that could see that it had to be done. She absolutely told me that over her dead body, she would go to San Francisco. So we arranged to get some counseling people, and when she got there,
you got a deprogrammer.
Yes, they were. That's
okay. And what's that process? How do you begin deprogramming?
Well, essentially what happened was they presented me with information about the group. They first asked me questions about what the group believed. I couldn't answer. To really get into detail, I couldn't. Then they explained to me things that they knew about it and some damages that other people had gone through who had been involved with the group. Then they explained to me how mind control works. And as we went through each step of that, as outlined by Robert Lifton, who wrote the definitive text on that, I could see that it was all there.
That's a tough thing to go through. We're going to talk more with Harry Stanton and his daughter, Deborah Stanton, who was a member of a cult for 3 years, a cult which is a method of mind control. Joining us will be Peter Georgiadis, who is an attorney who is specialized in cult litigation. So he'll be joining Harry and Deborah Stanton, and we'll discuss cults further in just a few moments.
Songs, the story songs, the great songs. Kenny Rogers live in concert. The excitement, the warmth, the legend. See Kenny Rogers live in concert, a night you'll always remember.
Don't miss Kenny Rogers, Mac Davis, and Sawyer Brown in concert Tuesday, August 27th, 8 p.m. at the Civic Arena.
This is an important announcement for every individual over 30 years of age. If you suffer from low back pain, hiatal hernia, poor blood circulation of the legs, edema or swelling of the feet, or everyday aches and pains. Call the toll-free number on your screen to receive this free booklet by return mail. Inside is important information on how these medical conditions can help be relieved by the use of a Craftmatic adjustable bed. If you suffer pain or discomfort from any of these health problems, call now, and you'll also receive these 4 important health brochures absolutely free. They contain vital information on how to combat arthritis, poor sleep, back pain, and heart disease. To receive everything free, call toll-free.
And we'll also send you free details on the all-new Craftmatic 2. It's Craftmatic's first adjustable bed available at flat bed prices.
Call 1-800-228-3300 toll-free. Call 1-800-228-3300. Call 1-800-228-3300 toll-free. Call 1-800-228-3300.
The problem with most heat and serve sausages is that no matter how long you cook them in a microwave, they never turn brown. But now there are broiled and brown pork sausages from Hormel. We've already broiled them, so they're already brown. All your microwave has to do is heat them. New broiled and brown sausages. Hormel has already done what your microwave can't.
We're talking about cults, a method of mind control. We heard Deborah Stanton's story. She was a member of a cult for 3 years, and her father, Harry Stanton, suffered through it along with his wife. It was a very difficult period, and he did begin procedures to deprogram her. Also joining us is Peter Georgiadis, who is an attorney who has specialized in cult litigation. In a case such as Deborah's, might there have been a suit involved?
There might have been a number of suits involved. I think the Stantons took a real risk when they went to get their daughter.
How do you mean?
A number of the cults have adopted litigation as a means of intimidating parents and relatives who want to rescue their spouses or children from cults, as well as intimidating professionals, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists who work with victims of cults. They become critical of the cult, they write an article or appear as a witness in a lawsuit, and the next thing you know, they're being sued 4, 5, 6 times for hundreds of millions of dollars. The defense costs alone drive people out of the area.
You mean some of these cults have won suits because people like Harry Stanton went to get his daughter?
I didn't say they won, I said they sued.
They sued.
And by the time
Has anyone ever won?
I can't say for sure how many wins or losses there have been. I know there have been successful actions where there have been kidnappings, and the in this case, the cult victim wanted out. But if the deprogramming or whatever you call it doesn't work, they wind up suing their own parents.
Tell us about a particular case that you may have represented in recent times that was sort of dramatic.
Well, unfortunately, I can't really talk about my own cases for 2 reasons. Some of them are still in litigation, and most of them.
Well, those that are not in litigation, I mean, was there a dramatic case that you were involved in?
Well, I've had a number of cases where, for instance, custody issues. Father comes home from work one day and thought his wife was involved with a club or a group of some kind, and then before you know it, she spends all of her time on the phone, and the 3-year-old doesn't get fed and doesn't get his clothing washed. What's the problem? Well, he's being elevated to a higher level of consciousness. This becomes a serious issue and winds up in the breakup of the family, and there's a custody fight. The cult parent claiming that they have the right to raise their child in whatever religion they want. Oftentimes it's not even a religion. And the other parent being just completely confused and befuddled because they've never encountered anything like this.
Yeah, well, it is something to say you've never encountered. Deborah, if you had not been rescued by your parents, which is exactly what happened, I mean, do you think that if you were still there that you might have wanted to crawl out?
I think it would have taken some time for me to have come to that point. However, knowing what I know now, if the only way my parents could have gotten me out was through kidnapping and holding me somewhere so that I would dialogue with some people, I would have wanted them to have done that.
You
Absolutely.
Would have. Do you have an abhorrence today for those people that you were with in the cult?
No, I don't have an abhorrence. I have a sense of sadness more than anything else that they're still involved in something that they really don't understand the dynamics of. And so I I have a sense of sorrow for that. And for those who maybe did manipulate, do some manipulating, conscious manipulation, I have a bit of an abhorrence for that, yes.
When we talk about these cults, about how many people might be involved with them, is anything known about that?
There are no really reliable statistics. Estimates range from a couple of thousand to upwards of 8,000 active cults in the United States. But you have to understand the definition of cult is going to vary from person to person.
It is, isn't it? How different is a cult, for example, from something I saw on the news the other day? But there was a guru from Oregon, and he's a guru to the rich. And they give him presents all the time, and he had 90 Rolls Royces. Now, how different is this from a cult? I mean, isn't this a cult too?
In my view, you're talking about Rajneesh in Oregon.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But they don't pay income tax either, do they?
I don't know. But cults vary. I mean, you have to. The Manson family. It only
that was a cult.
It had fewer than 30 members, but it was a cult. A cult doesn't have to have colored robes and chanting to be a cult.
Yeah.
Some of these cults expressly disavow any religious connection or even the trappings of religion.
Mr. Stanton, your experience with your daughter has encouraged you to get involved with the Cult Awareness Network.
Yes.
To help other people, other parents who have been so involved. What do you do, actually?
Well, first let me tell you that the Cult Awareness Network of Pittsburgh's prime function is to make the public aware of the harmful effects of destructive cults. And in doing so, what they're able to do is that they have given talks to schools and churches, have sent thousands of pieces of literature out to people who were asking for it. We get probably 30 to 40 calls a day. We're a nonprofit organization, and I must tell you that if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't be here today. So for those people that have that need, all they have to do is call 486-7117. They're listed at the blue pages of the Pittsburgh telephone book.
Good. We have a question from a young lady from our audience. Hi.
Hi.
What did you want to ask?
Why is it so hard to get out of a cult?
Why is it so hard to get out of a cult?
Well, when you really start believing that what they believe is true, then you start really seeing that what everybody else believes is false. So that's why it's so hard, you know, and what you have to do is kind of step out of what the group says is right and be able to look at it more objectively. And it's hard to do that, you know.
That is hard to do.
Sometimes people are afraid. Many of these groups actually have you believe by the time you're gone that if you leave the cult, you'll die. Or if you leave the cult, you'll become addicted to drugs. Or if you leave the cult, your parents are really demons.
They threaten you. They threaten you.
And so you're afraid to leave.
Thank you for your question. Thank you, Peter Georgiadis, Deborah Stanton, Harry Stanton. And for the Cult Awareness hotline, please call our number here, which is 392-2217, and we'll direct you to the proper number for the Cult Awareness hotline. And I'll be back in just a few moments.
The new ice creamier taste of Light and Lively ice milk says big calories, but read the small print.
Only 120.
Creamier caramel nut says big calories, but read the small print.
Light and Lively.
New improved Light and Lively ice milk, no more than 120 calories a serving, even ice creamier than before. Fudge twirl, big taste, small calories. Read the small print.
Light and Lively.
There's no single cheese like Velveeta, 'cause Velveeta is more than one single cheese. Like Colby, Swiss, and cheddar,
Blend it all together for a creamy taste that melts with ease. Velveeta processed cheese spread is so much fun. Lots of natural cheeses are better than one. Velveeta really knows how to please. You just can't stop till the very last drop. There's no single cheese like Velveeta.
Ready for laser phase. On this project, my hands have to work like precision instruments.
So when my arthritis pain flares up, I get my hands on something strong. Anacin.
Anacin.
23% more medicine than regular pain relievers to relieve minor arthritis pain for hours.
With Anacin, I forget I ever had arthritis pain.
Anacin, more medicine.
Coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 6, Springsteen fans filled Pittsburgh streets today hoping to get their tickets to see the boss. Bill Flanagan has the story, while Mary Rob Jackson investigates the mystique that makes Springsteen so hot. What does Wheeling Pitt's wage figure really mean? Kevin Roberts will break it down. The Eyewitness Sports team will have the latest from Latrobe tonight at 6.
KDKA TV's Eyewitness News team. What a team.
And that wraps up our show for today. I do want to thank the people in our audience. They are members of the West Allegheny School District, and those of you who looked in and took the time to call, I appreciate it. Tomorrow, we're going to have with us Chief Daniels of Hill Street Blues, who's John Cipher. And he's a delightful person. I know you'll enjoy meeting him. Also, we're going to tackle a very important question, and that is TV news sometimes an invasion of privacy? I think all of us look at TV sometimes, and while there are good things, there are also some things that are very questionable, and you'll have a chance to talk about them tomorrow. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Set furnishing provided by J.C. Penney. Marie Torre's hairstyles provided by Horn's Beauty Salon.
Are you just a number to your phone company? 973, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're number one to Sprint. You're important to them. I'm not kidding. You can talk to them anytime. A real person. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're there. And Sprint spent $1 billion last year to make sure you come through loud and clear. It's your choice. You can be somebody to Sprint or a big zero to somebody else. Call Sprint. Find out about it.